My name is Logan Whitaker. I live in Akron, Ohio. I don't like giving too many details, so I won't say where I work. I just want to get this out while it's still a little fresh. Sorry if I ramble. I get nervous talking about it. I forgot to water the plant the morning I left for the airport, and the soil smelled funny when I walked back in. Little things like that stick in my head now. We flew out early, morning check-in at the counter. The lady put the tag on my bag, said the gate number, said the time, handed back my stub. I remember the heat of the coffee cup in my hand. I remember thinking the plane looked smaller than it should. Normal, right? Normal travel stuff. I handed the duffel over to the ramp guy and watched it roll away on the belt, then down the chute into the belly. He gave me a nod like we both knew the drill. I told him thanks and walked off. The flight was fine. I slept bad. Planes make my neck stiff. At the destination, waiting at the carousel. People stood around, bags bumping, kids dragging feet. Mine didn't come. The conveyor slowed, stopped. They turned the lights bright like they always do when it's time to close the belt. No bag. The belt emptied. The carriage stopped. People started looking at each other. A woman behind me said something like, "Did they just?" I laughed a little, because what else do you do? I thought, maybe they put it on another flight, right? Maybe it was an honest mix-up. I went to the lost luggage counter. The attendant was polite. I told her my tag number. She typed, clicked. She said, "We'll look into it." She said it calm. "Sometimes it goes to the next carousel." She gave me a card. I kept the stub in my pocket because I am dumb like that. I walked out to meet my ride. I remember thinking how odd it felt, like a tiny itch on my shoulder. I bought a soda and didn't finish it. I left it in the cup holder of the car. I was distracted. Back at the apartment, I bought an AirTag. I know it sounds over the top, but I panicked. I had some things in that bag I couldn't replace. A watch my dad gave me. A necklace. Nothing flashy, but it mattered. I put the tag inside a pocket, turned it on. Watched the little dot on my phone move. At first, it pinged near the airport. Then, slowly, it moved. It went off the map, then to a point marked maintenance area. The ping said, baggage service, hangar. The blue dot sat there like a stone. I went back. The lost luggage counter said, "We have a note, sir. It will be found. The CCTV room is a locked place." I asked to see footage. They said they couldn't show it. "Policy," the woman said, folding her hands. She half smiled. Her smile made me feel like I was asking something silly. A manager came, listened, and said, "We check the systems. Sometimes clips are short." He pulled up footage for me, but it was slow and clipped. A hallway here, conveyor there, a black screen for long stretches. The timestamps jumped. It wasn't normal. It looked like someone had scrubbed the tape. While I stood there, a guy in a porter uniform, clean shirt, nice smile, walked up. He said, "Rough day, huh?" His smile was too steady. He asked if I found my bag. I showed him my stub. He said, "Hey, listen. If you want, I could look after hours. Make sure to check back by the hangar when it's quiet. I know a guy." He said it like friends. He said it like a favor. I remember thinking, why would a stranger offer that? But the way he said it made me think of movies. Help that turns into trouble. I felt my mouth go dry and I told him, "No, thanks." But then I thought about the AirTag, the dot sitting alone in the map, and I texted him later that night. I shouldn't have. I know that now. 3 days later, the AirTag pinged like a heart. It was a gray suburban neighborhood, no airport there. I drove. I remember the radio playing a song I hated but couldn't turn off. I followed the dot until my phone said arrived. I parked across the street from a plain house with a mailbox leaning. From the curb, I could see a porch light on and 4 suitcases lined up beside the door. One of them was mine. I don't know how to say the next part without sounding crazy. The zippers were cut. The lining of one bag hung out like a wound. Jewelry boxes were open and empty. A bracelet, my dad's, was gone. I eased down the sidewalk like a stupid kid trying not to be seen. A man came out the back with a cup of coffee, but he didn't notice me. I called the police from my car. I waited. I told the 911 operator everything: the AirTag, the house, the porch. The officer arrived and I watched him walk up the front steps. He knocked. A woman appeared and said she lived there. She seemed small, apologetic. She said she rented a room to a friend who had moved his stuff in and would clear it up. They took the bags. Officers went in and out. They called more cars. It turned into a thing. I stayed at the curb, hands cold on the steering wheel. The lead handler, an airport guy, they said, was a contract employee. The word reassigned came out of someone's mouth over and over. The officers took photos. A forensics guy put my bag in a marked truck like it's evidence. I felt relieved, yes, but my relief was an empty thing. The officer told me they'd found several bags here, cleared out, and they'd be processed. He said they'd hold them, file reports. He said this might take time. A week later, the official statement called it a small, opportunistic crew. The airline sent an email, vouchers, and an insurance form. I filled it out because you do the thing they tell you to, but the form doesn't bring back a watch or a bracelet. I walked into the locker room at the airport once, years ago. Don't ask why, it was dumb. And a coworker told me, "Quiet. Don't ask where things go." He said it like it was normal. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. The phrase sat in my head like a stone. One of the detectives told me the lead handler worked for a third-party vendor. He'd been reassigned, no charges at first. They said fingerprints matched some people who used to get overtime inside the cargo area. The detective said, "We have to build a case." He said it like building a house. He gave me a badge number and asked for my patience. I tried. Then, 2 weeks after my bag went missing, an image showed up in my inbox. Someone sent me a photo of a tool bag. It was the kind of bag airport workers carry. Inside it were dozens of metal picks, those little things you'd use to open locks. And there were small padlocks of the same brand the airline told us were tamper-proof. In the corner of the photo was a receipt for cash, pawn shop. Dated the morning my bag disappeared. I stared at the picture until the light changed in the room. I called the detective. He said, "We have that receipt." He sounded tired. He said they'd traced some cash payments, they'd questioned some people, and that the company had done internal stuff. He said the vendor cooperated. The word sounded too smooth. The airline keeps sending vouchers. The company's PR people call to say they are sorry and that policy changes are coming. But the watch is still missing. The bracelet is still missing. The dog tag my father wore is still missing. The receipts in my inbox only make me think of the porch and the cut zippers. A coworker of mine, someone I trust, later told me he once found a line of suitcases in a supervisor's locker room. He said the bags had tags but no owners. He said someone told him, "Don't ask where things go." He laughed when he told me, like it was a joke, but he didn't look like he was laughing. Maybe he was trying to make it easier. I don't know, I sleep in fits. I check the front door twice before leaving now. I catch myself looking at people in the terminal, watching how they move their hands over their bags. I think too much. Maybe I should have kept better watch. Maybe I should have never put the tag, or maybe I shouldn't have followed it. I don't know what's worse, knowing or pretending I don't. They cleaned out that house. They took the bags. There was talk of prosecution. There was talk of reassignment. There were polite emails, vouchers, forms. I'm left with a photo of a tool bag and a receipt and a phrase that won't leave me. Don't ask where things go. And the little dot on my phone that led me to a porch with zippers cut and empty jewelry boxes. I keep looking at my phone, hoping for a ping that says, "My stuff is found." It never comes. After the house was cleared, I hoped it would end. The detective called and said, "We found your watch chain in a locker." He sounded tired. He said they'd matched prints to people with hangar access. He said names. He said, "We might get charges." I wanted to believe. The vendor apologized. The airline sent a voucher. I didn't take another flight. I went to a hearing, small room. Lawyer in a clean suit, detective checking his phone. They said procedural lapse and resigned. The matter moved to arbitration. I signed papers and waited. Online, the noise was worse. Someone leaked crew chats full of jokes and cabin numbers. I read a hallway shot with tile like mine. The detective called it gossip. He said proving authorship was hard. Servers, deleted messages. He told me to be patient. Patience is ugly when your things are gone. I called my dad. He kept a lock in the shed and once showed me how to pick it. He told me not all things make sense. Months later, an anonymous message landed in my inbox. A photo, a tool bag, a row of pics, a padlock brand the airline said was secure. A pawn receipt tucked under the strap. The receipt matched the morning my bag disappeared. Subject line, "We hate to tell you." The sender vanished. I threw my phone and walked outside. A kid riding a bike fell and kept going. A civil claim began. Insurance said they'd pay some. The airline insisted on arbitration. My lawyer said settlements are normal and faster. He recommended taking money. He told me to think about bills. I thought about a bracelet and a dog tag and a watch. They don't care about bills. I stopped flying unless I had to. I told people I was trying to be green. I took trains and buses. At the terminal, I watched hands on zippers. I checked tags. One night, I saw a man with a tool bag by a conveyor. He looked like the photo. I watched him until he walked away. Maybe it was nothing. The detective slowed. He got reassigned. Calls thinned. He once said, "We have leads," and then was gone. The files grew and answers shrank. The airline sent polite emails about safety and training. PR spoke of additional measures. Vouchers arrived. I deleted them. Receipts showed up sometimes, then not. Pawn shops closed. Managers stopped answering. Forum accounts disappeared. Evidence frayed like old rope. A coworker told me he once opened a supervisor's locker and found suitcases lined up. He looked at me and said, smiling, "Don't ask where things go." He laughed like it was a joke. His face didn't laugh. A while later, I got another photo. Tool bag again, different shop name on the receipt. Same morning. I looked until my head spun. I called the detective and left a message. He didn't call back. The civil suit ended with a check and a clause. Sign and you drop claims. My lawyer said it was reasonable. I signed because fighting costs time and money, and I needed to sleep sometimes. The check doesn't fix a watch or a bracelet. It pays a bill. After all that, there's a phrase stuck in my head. Don't ask where things go. It's simple, and it feels like a rule. It changes how I see people in the terminal. It makes me watch men in vests with tool bags. It makes me check locks and hide tags in pockets I never used before. Sometimes I dream of a porch light and suitcases on steps. I dream of zippers cut and empty boxes. I wake up and look at the door and whisper that phrase like a prayer. I keep receipts and emails in a drawer, and I check them like a man who counts scars. People told me to let it go. They said I was lucky nothing worse happened. Maybe I am paranoid, maybe I am right. The detective said they had evidence. The vendor said they cooperated. The airline said policies would change. I don't know what to tell you except to be careful. Close curtains, hide tags, take photos. Or don't. Maybe your things will vanish. Maybe someone will send you a photo of a tool bag and a receipt, and you'll have to wait and wait and wait for answers that come slow and thin. I drive past that suburban street sometimes. I stop at a corner and look at the house's porch like it's a small stage. A porch light shines. Sometimes suitcases sit there in my mind. The phrase plays in my head. Don't ask where things go. I say it when I lock my door. I say it and try to sleep.